So subject to all of those things. So that means the residents basically are not going to see it. I mean, if you can't see it now, and there is maybe a couple of homes, I mean, without doing detailed analysis, but what we're saying is for 95% or 99% of the homes, you're not going to see it. If you can't see it now, you're not going to see it afterwards. So that's the type of motion, but we have to craft it out. It's a complicated motion, but assuming the council is going to pass it, the recommendation is based on that. It's just like a building. Somebody comes to council for a public hearing, and we say keep it to a certain level so the residents are not going to see it. And once the council says, fine, this is the height of the building, it means the architect has the right to build it within that height.
So I'm afraid I'm part of that 1% you just mentioned. So I'm not protected. I will see the road. I will see the cars and the trucks.
The question is, that you see it now?
No, I don't.
Then most likely, and without doing a detailed analysis, and this is why we have to craft the motion. We got a month to craft it out. But we're going to craft the motion. The council is going to do it subject to that.
That none of us will see the road,
if you
trucks,
can't see it
or
now, correct. If you can't see it now, then you're not going to see it.
Because, I just saw during the presentation, it said that it would go down by 1.7 meters in my area. But again, from what? 1.7 meters down from what? It's like Port Metro Vancouver say, hey, this project is going to increase jobs by 50%. I asked, 50% from what? They don't know.
But I think what we're trying to do is saying, rather than saying the Pacific height, saying the motion will be worded in such a way as if you can't see it now, and that is the trucks on it, etc., you're not going to be able to see it when it is over. And I think if you do that, it should be a win-win. Now, I'm not trying to talk about the benefits for that at the port, but what we're trying to say is the motion is going to be based. Now, I don't know if council is going to pass that. What I'm saying is that Steve and I are going to go to council, and that is the recommendation. And we're going to craft it out, the wording, so we're looking after your interests.
So I'm going to ask that we give these other people a chance. Steve, if you got something, if you can speak briefly to the point. Ma'am, I appreciate that you've got more. We've taken quite a bit more than 3 minutes on. We're going to give these other people a chance, okay? And if you want to go to the back of the line, I guarantee you get another chance.
The last thing that's not going to work well with me and probably with most people are threats of deadlines and money. Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I just, Joanne, can I just say... Yeah, so Joanne, the one thing that I do want to say is that we've spent some time talking about this one, and one of the things that we've moved to with the port is we're going to try and get rid of that overpass that's being proposed near your place, right? And we're trying to get that shifted, all that traffic shifted over towards that existing St. George's St. George's Road Avenue, rather than in front of your place and the new overpass. And that's going to hopefully create the opportunity for us to lower that roadway the way that you've been asking for. Okay? Okay, so that's what we're working towards, all right?
Thanks, Steve. So again, I'm just going to ask people, just to be reminiscent of the people behind you, if you could be as succinct as possible, I'd appreciate it. Please.
Thank you. Jim Belsham. I live in the North Shore, and I work at Neptune Terminals. Delighted to be here today. I apologize. I tend to be a blunt speaker and say what's on my mind. Neptune is part of the North Shore community. It's a real part of the North Shore community. We're proud to be part of the North Shore community. For 40 years we've been here. We're going to be here for another 40 and much longer. So I applaud this process. I really enjoy the comments the speakers have been making. The honesty, the intensity, the emotion that's here is critical. If the port listens, if you listen to the port, we're likely to get something that works. Neptune supports it. Why? Because it's a big economic benefit. To Neptune, not specifically. To the whole port, yes. To the terminals to the west of us, yes. But there's 2 reasons why we support it. as part of the community. Let me digress for a minute. It's my habit. We've been described, I think, by Michelle as a company that makes billions of dollars. That's silly. Do we make hundreds of millions? That's also silly. Do we make $10 million? Unfortunately, that's silly too. We're a service company. We're a great group of people, 400 people down on the waterfront, who live and die based on the ability to service customers, taking Canadian goods, shipping them overseas. And that's us. We're a service group. Now, the two reasons we support this initiative quite strongly are, picture yourself, low-level road. We have a long 1 or 2 trains across the track crossing. We have 30 cars on the inside, backed up, waiting to turn left. We have 3 or 4 cars waiting to turn right into the same place. On the other side, we have cars backed up, Park and Tilford perhaps, waiting to turn left into the terminal. We have the traffic commuting onto the bridge. And then we take all that mess and people waiting for that gap in the train to everybody zing across. And what do? We mix in bicycles. Okay? I like bicycles. I'm a road biker. We mix in bicycles to that mix. And that doesn't make any sense. Mixing trains and cars doesn't make any sense. Mixing trains, cars, and bicycles doesn't make any sense. And mixing trains, cars, bicycles, and pedestrians makes no sense.
So could you wrap up your point, please?
Yeah, I was on a roll. Okay. So we support it from that way. The other quick point I wanted to make is to my friend with the espresso shop. We have 400 employees at our shop, large number of cargoes that are trapped inside that can't shop in your community, in our community. They can't go to the coffee. They can't go there for lunch. They can't go to Park and Tilford. They can't go to Home Depot because they can't get out or they're worried about getting into work on time.
Okay.
They're high-paid jobs, and they're all there, and I'm finished. Thank you very much.
You know, I appreciate everybody can take the 3 minutes, but really, we don't need to hear the same thing over and over again. If you make your point, I think, whether you're for or against it, and really, my job is to be neutral. I'm just going to ask that you just pay some respect to the people that do want to at least have a minute at the mic. So you have 3 minutes if you want it, but if you don't need it.
Thank you. My name is Brian Lytle. I live at 528 East 1st Street. Ladies and gentlemen, the real goal of PMV is to raise low-level road and relocate it as far north as possible, thereby freeing up space for additional rail track. To do this means running the road through the slopes that are the very buffer zone that separate our neighborhoods from the noise and the pollution of the port's industry. PMV does not recognize the value of our buffer zone, but sees it as expendable. Ladies and gentlemen, low-level road is an industrial throughway serving the port and the city. I have walked this corridor and observed the environment. At the east end, there is sufficient room to construct an overpass into Neptune and Cargill terminals, and this from ground level. Proceeding west, this corridor quickly runs out of space, and where Moody Street runs above Cargill Terminal, the bluffs rise almost vertically. This is where PMV would build their retaining walls and fill in and place the road on top of the fill. Because of the conditions of these bluffs, someday a retaining wall will probably have to be built, but we don't need a road on the top. The road should be placed at the foot of any retaining walls, in fact, at the level of where it is now. At any rate, the goals of improvement in safety, access, and bank stabilization are all quite achievable while leaving low-level road at its current level. What is needed is the desire to build within this paradigm. Ladies and gentlemen, the plan to raise low-level road is not justifiable. If this plan comes to fruition, my neighborhood and this section of the city will lose its precious buffer zone. The little natural forested area of Moodyville Park will be devastated. Homes from 1st Street through Alder Street will be ruined. And no matter what measures to mitigate this have been conjectured by PMV, the legacy of raising low-level road will be more and ever-increasing noise and pollution delivered to our neighborhood. And just a little postscript to my statement. Because low-level road has no real safe walking area, when researching this, I did one of my walks early on a Sunday morning, And in the 20 minutes from 6:10 to 6:30, I was passed by 2 semis and a tandem dump truck. We do not want this industrial road in our neighborhood. Low-level road is fine and works well where it is now and has always been. Plans for true improvement will keep it there. Let's remember, North Vancouver is famous for, and indeed prides itself on the quality of life here, and it's true. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep the lower road where it is.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Ian McMillan. Well, it's just a statement. I'm not going to ask any questions.
Could you just tell us where you live?
I live in Norgate, actually. Okay. Is it just me, or is it getting hotter in here? 35 years ago, I lived on the 400 block of East First Street. In the 10 years that we lived there, we did not hear the trains at all. 25 years ago, we moved to Norgate and heard some train noise, even though we were about a kilometer away from Pemberton and the low-level road crossing there. However, since the leasing of BC Rail land to CN Rail, port noise has increased significantly and has been intolerable for many residents. Now, we've heard some big numbers here. Cargill, CN, worth about $5 billion. We've heard $100 million for this project. I know an even bigger number, and it affects the people who live on the ridge looking down at the road. It affects this lady with the red sweater, Michelle, the lady that lives on Alder. I know her as well. The big number that I know is $50,000, because that's what will cost you if you find the noise intolerable and you want to move. You've got a real estate commission, you've got property transfer tax, you've got legal fees, you've got moving costs. $50,000. That's a very big number to me, as it should be to anyone that's in this room who is affected. A much bigger number than the value of CN. By the way, I own CN stocks in my pension plan, to my horror. I do not believe that sound walls and plastic shields will substantially reduce the sound levels. The noise must be reduced at the source, the trains themselves. Obviously, increased.
Could you, sir, sir. Thank you very much. Could you, please?
Obviously, with my experience of 35 years of living close to train tracks, increased rail traffic results in increased noise, not less, more. And that is the essential part of my statement.
Thank you very much. Sir? Again, I'm going to ask, I don't know, people seem to want to be reading statements. Surely you can look and say what your key points are. If you need 3 minutes, again, take them, but I'm going to ask people to think of the people behind you and take as little time as you really need to make your point. Please.
I just have some notes. My name's Don Pullen. I live in the 900 block of East 4th. The first time I really heard about this was there was a local community meeting at the school near me, and I knew St. Patrick's to St. David's. There was going to be some impact over there, so I thought I should be aware of what was happening. So I went to the meeting. I understood there was another meeting over at the Eagles Hall, so I went to that as well. That's where I discovered a few items that really concerned me. One of the first things is I have to commend the people from Neptune and CN Rail and that for showing their community spirit. I was a member of the Waterfront Industrial Noise Committee with the City of North Vancouver for 10 years approximately, and although we had an open invitation to them to come to our meetings whenever we had them, and we requested them to come, in those 10 years I think we maybe had 3 attendees. There was a number of situations where we had issues with noise that was caused by CN Rail and various other suppliers, and there was no attendees. So, I mean, I really appreciate the offer. It would be nice to see some actual.
So let's get